Hi, welcome to City of Churches, a look at the distinctive houses of worship and their parish neighborhoods right here in the Brooklyn Diocese. Did you know that church architecture and design are a reflection of God's presence, while the surrounding neighborhoods possess their own unique history? Today we're visiting a place close to my own heart, St. John the Evangelist Church, right here in Brooklyn. I'm Anthony Mangano, and I'm your new host for City of Churches. Today, we're in the southern part of Park Slope, also known as Greenwood Heights, and we're on our way to St. John the Evangelist Church. See, I know a little bit about this part of Brooklyn because I grew up here, and I went to St. John's. But before we head over to the church, I'd like to take you on a little tour of the old neighborhood. See, I grew up right here in this apartment building, and I lived right there in that room right there with me, my dad, my mom, my brothers Tommy and Joey. It was a great time in my life because I went to St. John, and I got to tell you, when I was a kid, it was like I Love Lucy here because my dad was a nightclub singer named Tony Mann. He was kind of an icon in this neighborhood. Everybody knew him.
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Tony Mann.
And he used to come out all the time on the weekends in a tuxedo, and it was the most outrageous thing. My friends would all go, "Look, your dad's going to sing tonight." And he'd come down, he was like an idol walking out in the street that everybody would see. And it was great growing up here because, you see, the kids in this neighborhood, we were one tight little unit. We went to St. John's, we'd come home, we'd be out in the street playing in our school uniforms, and we would get yelled at all the time because the uniforms were so expensive. That was when neighborhoods were neighborhoods. And we had a bunch of great guys. I had Joey Zito, who lived over there. I had the Marollas, Joey and Philip. The Lantinis were there, Bobby, Billy Adami and his family. Billy was like a big brother to me. And we used to come out in this street over here and we'd play anything. In the summer it was stickball, punchball, and we had imaginary bases. You had home base here, you had first, second, third, and home, and you just sit here with a ball and you just like whack, and it was great. Now, if you were the catcher and you missed the ball and it went all the way down that way, boy, that stunk. Because that's a long way down. It would roll to Fifth Avenue. And look at that view. You'd have the Statue of Liberty in the background. It was such a great place. We used to come in here and play in this gate. And we used to run. Now, look, the size of me now, I can't do it again. I'm too big for it. But look, you used to swing, go down, and go all the way down the road. It was like a game. It was so much fun. That's why I said to you, growing up in this neighborhood was so cool. We didn't have the Wii, we didn't have the Xbox, we didn't have the PlayStation. We played in the street like kids. That's what was fun. You know, I swear it seems like it's yesterday. I remember sitting over here with the guys during the summer when it was really hot. And Mr. Lentini would be in there, Mrs. Lentini, and they would see us and we'd be sitting out here going, "Oh, it's so hot," and they were like that. And then they would come out and they go home and get your bathing suits. Because he had one of the only pools in the neighborhood. We'd run across the street, get our bathing suits on, and go right inside and hang out in the pool for a couple hours. He was a great guy. It's just really a great thing and a great place. I'll never forget. I feel like I'm a kid again sitting here right now, going back in my mind of when we were kids. This is Mrs. Lentini.
Yep.
And her husband, who passed away, a great guy, they used to let us go. This is the house I was telling you about. They used to let us go in the pool.
You want to see the yard, how big it is? I could build a house on it. I mean it. You had 6 kids here, you had 5 there, and my 3 daughters.
Yeah, but you were the only one that let us in your pool.
Well, I'm the one that's generous. What you do for the least of my brother, you do for me, God says.
It's true. Such a great area to grow up in. St. John's was such a great church to go to. I mean, to grow up here as a youth was one of the greatest experiences I ever had in my life. And to this day, I still think back to it, how I loved being a kid here growing up. It was a great time here. Come on, take a walk with me. I'll show you down Fifth Avenue. You know, the landmarks are changed around here depending on what map you look at. I mean, they call it Park Slope, South Brooklyn, Gowanus. But the biggest landmark around here is Greenwood Cemetery. And it's only a few blocks away, so we're going to head over there. Here we are at Greenwood Cemetery. Can you believe it? Look at that. It's one of the biggest and most beautiful landmarks in Brooklyn. It's absolutely breathtaking. And can you believe that there used to be an elevated subway line that ran along Fifth Avenue from 1916 to 1940? Unbelievable, because if you look at either direction, you would never know that it even existed. It's absolutely breathtaking, because it runs for miles. The highest spot in Brooklyn is there, Battle Hill. It's where the first major battle of the American Revolution took place in 1776. General George Washington and his troops fought the British and escaped via the Gowanus Canal. Greenwood opened in 1838 as a rural cemetery within a carefully planned park-like atmosphere. There were landscapes with ponds, hills, trees, and winding roads. Its design was so unique and unusual for a cemetery that it later became the model for both Central Park and Prospect Park. It also became the most fashionable place to be buried back in the 19th century. Grave markers were both elaborate and simple. It was so popular with tourists that for many years, this was considered a great place for family day trips, carriage rides, and outdoor sculpture. There are many American Civil War veterans buried here, plus some notable celebrities like Louis Comfort Tiffany, who designed many of the stained glass windows used in the churches around the city. Charles Ebbets, owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers and founder of Ebbets Field. Henry and William Steinway, founders of the famous piano company. Actor William S. Hart, the famous cowboy star of silent movies. And composer Leonard Bernstein, famous for West Side Story and other great musical works. Now, 2 blocks from here is St. John the Evangelist Church, which will be our next stop, right here on City of Churches. Here we are in the courtyard of St. John's the Evangelist. Now look, it's bringing back a lot of memories to me as a kid. That's why I'm beaming. We used to play hide and seek in here and all sorts of games. And sometimes we'd knock our ball into this courtyard here. Now, we would get in trouble by going in there so many times and they'd call our parents up. So eventually we got smart and asked them, could we please go get our ball? And also, in the mornings when we used to go to school, we used to walk right through this courtyard out to 21st Street. Sometimes we would go into the church here on this entrance here because this would be open. All the entrances were open. At my age, I think back, and these were the most memorable moments of my life, growing up in this area and going to this church and right here in the Brooklyn Diocese. So I want to keep telling you about it as we walk. Well, here we are at St. John's Evangelist Church. Well, here we are at St. John's the Evangelist Church. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm like a little kid. You know, they really say you can't go back home, but I feel like you can, because I was an altar boy here, and I'm just ecstatic being in here. And I want everybody to meet Father Grande. Father Grande, thank you so much for taking the time to being with me and our viewers. Yes. I'd like you to tell us about the church.
Oh, St. John the Evangelist Church, it was founded really in 1849. The church was founded in 1849. In 1846, the Bishop of New York was asked to send people over to this area, the Gowanus, Fort Hamilton area. And he sent over a priest, Father McLaughlin. He sent over, Peter McLaughlin, he sent over in 1849. And he really came here to establish a church over in the Fort Hamilton area. And what happened was that because of the work on the Gowanus, a lot of the Irish Catholics came into the area around that time. And so what he did was that he switched plans and he created the church. He built a church right over here, right behind us, a church called St. John the Evangelist, which the Bishop of New York at that time named because he had a devotion to St. John the Evangelist.
So that was the original church?
The original church was behind this church, facing 22nd Street.
On 22nd Street.
It was a wooden church.
That's the block I grew up on, yes. So that's where the original, which is now like
a garden.
A garden, okay.
Yeah.
What was the reason that we needed a church in this area back then?
Well, it was, as we said, the Catholic population started to grow in this area, especially the Irish immigrants began to move in this Gowanus area because of the work, there was construction work being done on the Gowanus Canal over here. Mm-hmm. And so the Catholic population started to grow in this area. There were Catholics here in 1843, 1846. They were requesting the Bishop of New York to send somebody over, but then they requested somebody send somebody permanent because the Catholic population, the Irish Catholics, started to increase in this area. And so then, as I said, the plan was to create a church, build a church in the Fort Hamilton area. But because of the immigration of the Irish Catholics into this area in the 1846, they decided in 1849 to start building a church in this area. And because of the population of the Catholics started to grow.
I'm beginning to realize that the need for work created a community in the church.
Yes.
It's amazing, as the immigrants came here, the communities built upon the area for work.
For work, yeah.
And that's how, basically, I'm beginning to see that's how communities and neighborhoods started, because of that, where the church is built around the work area. It's something I just realized just now.
Right.
Because as I'm doing these episodes, I'm beginning to see that everywhere you go, it was amazing. I mean, areas have changed, of course, but the work would build the community.
The work would build,
and the church would be the center of it.
Work and children.
Yeah, work
and children.
Why? Just to recap this, it was named St. John's the Evangelist. How is it that it's represented in this church?
How is it? Well, it's represented by a couple, in picture or in art, is that there's a mosaic over the altar here of St. John the Evangelist. And then over here, there's the crucifixion of Jesus with the beloved disciple is there, and that was St. John the Evangelist, St. John. In art. In practice, it's trying to make our faith come alive among the people, and the people experience the Word of God and experience Christ living among us, which was found in St. John the Evangelist in the Gospel according to him. And we try to make it alive, we try to make it a faith experience for the people, that they can experience the Word in service and action in other ways, and not only in art forms.
As I look around, I see some things have changed, but how many people can be seated in here now?
Well, now there are about 600 people in the church. It used to be, right, because they expanded the church over here, it would have been about 700, maybe 800. They moved it to about 600, 600 or 700 people.
Yeah,
up in here.
when we take a walk, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions
Yeah.
about the altar rail because I remember that as a kid. What style architecture would this be, and who designed it? Because it is amazing, you know, that it's how high and everything.
It's the European church look. It's the monastic way with the arches and so forth. Exactly who designed it, we're not too sure. This church was built in 1927.
Father, can you tell us about the music ministry here?
Well, we have a variety of different music here because we have a large Latino community. We have this very excellent Spanish choir. We also have organ music at the 8:45 Mass that we have, and at the 5:30.
I was going to ask you about that, the old pipe organ that's back up there. That's the original. Like,
That goes back to 1923. Wow. 1923. Now, that either goes back to the church that was built across the street here, or it was built for this church that was built in 1927. So we're trying to find out if it was first put in there and then brought over here, or made for here.
I wouldn't know if there were people alive that would even remember that. It would be a blessing if they did.
Yeah. The pipe organ's up there, and part of the organ is still up there. Goes back to 1923.
Is it still functional?
It's not functioning. Now, we use this organ over here.
Okay. Maybe we have to have a little drive to get it refurbished and reestablished again here.
Okay.
This church is too beautiful to me. I'll have to do something about that. A while back, you had a special choir here. Can you tell us about that event?
It was a German choir, and just by accident, I got a call from Monsignor Robert Paulson, who I know, who knew their family, and he told me that they were coming into the area because they were on a tour throughout this area as a choir. It was a choir made up of 50 choir members, and they were staying about 2 blocks down from here on 21st Street at a hotel. And we got in touch with them, and they came over here, helped us with our mass, and they were fantastic. I mean, they were fantastic.
That's amazing.
They went beyond our expectations as well, and they really helped us enjoy the celebration. They did music, all types of music, but they also did in Latin. They did it in English. They sang German songs for us. Wow. But it was all in the liturgy. It was part of the mass.
That's something.
It was really nice. It was a very nice ceremony. Very nice.
I have a special treat for our viewers. If you all stay tuned, we have a clip of them performing here on that day.
It took us about a month and a half to put this together. I was trying to tell them that this choir was coming, but again, they didn't know what to expect. When they did come, I have to admit the choir was very nice, very friendly, and very nice to the people. there was one moment during the Mass where the choir actually started walking around and encircling the people in the church. And church was kind of full, it was full that day. And they were encircling the people and they started singing Ubi Caritas. And after that, the people just stood up and started applauding. The people just stood up and started applauding them. They knew they were in church, they knew it was a Mass, but they just said they had to do it. They told me afterwards they just had to do it for them. They were so moved by the people. And afterwards we had coffee and refreshments outside in front of the church, and people stopped and they spoke to them. They were getting autographs by them.
Oh, wow.
And they told me that we should have this more often.
That's something that I think would be great for the church. I think especially for my church, I have to say that. I think it would be great. Father Grande,
Yes.
I grew up here. My parents grew up here. My father was all Italian. My mother was Italian, Polish, German. There was so many, an influx of different nationalities here.
Right.
How has the neighborhood population changed over the years?
Well, it's still what we call them, the Brooklyn Italians, right? The Brooklyn Italians, the Brooklyn Knights who are still living here, from Italian heritage, Irish, Polish, still living in the area. The Latino community has moved into the area as well, but they've been here for a long time. We have a lot of Ecuadorians, Colombians, Mexicans, all mixing in with in the area. And then the hipsters are moving in this area. They're moving down towards this area, moving more and more close into the Park Slope area.
I've seen it. It's amazing. I still see this Greshless hardware store is still there.
Yes.
Things have changed, but some things are still the same. When I was a kid, on Fifth Avenue, there was Germain's was the main thing.
Right.
Germain's is no longer there. It's a gym now. It just amazes me how some things, the area, I still see the old area. And I see the
Right.
people, but it's so nice that the people are here and are coming to the church.
Right.
Are there many statues here from the early days?
A couple of them. One would be the St. Anne, we'll show you the latest St. Anne statue. That came in the late 1920s from Caserta, Italy. That's a replica of a St. Anne statue that's in Caserta, Italy, made in the Bronx, brought from the Bronx here in the late 1920s to down here on 21st Street to the Italian organization that was dedicated to St. Anne. They had a chapel over there. That was brought by horse and buggy in the late 20s down to over here. Now, Monsignor Sala, who became the pastor in 1936, what's interesting about Monsignor Sala, he was the pastor of St. Rocco's and became the pastor here of St. John the Evangelist at the same time.
Wow.
Being a pastor of two places in 1936, 1937 to about 1966. The idea behind that was that the Italian population was growing so strong in this area that the Italians, again, St. Rocco was built as the national church for the Italians. And he had Italian Mass over there and Italian services over there. What he did they made him pastor over here because they have now over here on 21st Street, you have that big school that holds over 1,000 students. What they wanted him to do is bring the Italians back over to this area, put the children into the school, which he did because the population of the school began to grow. And what he did also while I was here was to create more of an Italian heritage, as we say, and brought in the statues that were dedicated to the Italians.
Well,
So that's how the St. Anne one, and St. Michael the Archangel statue got in here. The unique thing about that is everybody who looks at St. Anne looks at her as a younger woman. Tradition has her as an older woman who is the mother of the Blessed Mother, Mary. When you look at that statue, it is an older woman. You don't usually see a St. Anne as an old woman.
Sure.
And this is why it's unique about that. It's probably one of the only ones here we have in the United States, but it's the one from a replica made in Caserta, Italy. So he brought that statue here from down 21st Street in order to bring a proper devotion to St. Anne.
Wow.
Now, you know, probably know about St. Michael the Archangel. In the late 20s, they used to have, probably you're too young for this, but in late 20s, they used to have the festival for St. Michael the Archangel here on 21st Street. They actually had it where they had from the house to a platform in the middle of the street. They had the devil standing on the stage over there, and they actually had like a younger kid. Remember the old clotheslines? They used to bring him down from the house and wheel him down on the clothesline to reach the stage.
Wow.
With a sword in his hand. He would be St. Michael's defending the church and destroying the devil.
Wow.
And that went up until into the early 1930s. And then again, when Monsignor Sala came here, he had that statue of St. Michael the Archangel brought here for proper devotion to St. Michael the Archangel. And that statue was redone about 10 years ago. And so,
Are there any recent ones added to the church?
there was some, we have, again, we just merged, the Bishop DiMarzio merged St. Rocco and St. John the Evangelist together in 2011. And a lot of the Latino communities came over here with their statues. Our Lady, La Virgen de Nube from the Ecuadorians. We have the Virgin, La Virgen de Cisne in the glass dome, right over here. These are the two new edit ones that came in 2011.
How about the statues outside?
Statues outside, now that could go back to the 19th, some could go back to the 1904 church, because the 1904 church was built across the street. Some of them could go back to the 1927 church. And what happened was, if you look at this church, the opening to the church faces upward.
Yes.
Doesn't face
there's the
across the
opening.
street,
There's
right.
the actual opening would face 6th Avenue,
6th
which
Avenue.
is houses there.
Right. But again, 6th Avenue and all that was starting to be developed when they began this church in 1927. You remember, when this church was founded, 5th Avenue only went up to 27th Street.
It's ironic because when you do look at the church, it's actually in the middle of 2 blocks and 2 avenues.
2 avenues.
It's centered, so I would imagine, like you were saying, that it was open range at that time.
Open range farmlands and all that, the whole area.
That's
and
amazing.
what they began to, when they built this church, what they wanted the people to do is walk out this way into gardens.
Oh, okay.
So he had gardens all along this area, right in front of the church here and along the side here. And then he had statues. Monsignor Sala put also statues all that, in the garden area. So those statues come from those gardens. And so forth. So what they wanted to do when they built this church in 27 was that the people would walk out and see the gardens, not walk out, even though there was a side door, not walk out into see this big building and the busyness of 21st Street, but to walk out this way to see the gardens.
How times have changed in population.
Which, in a way, this is what we're trying to restore back, that people walk out in the garden. We have activities or coffee, refreshments, everything right here in the garden. So
it's really nice.
Yeah.
Father Grande, I have to tell you, I'm like a little kid in here. It's like I feel like I'm an altar boy or I'm in school again, coming right down into the church. You know, and I see so many beautiful things that bring back great memories, and a lot of it has to do with the stained glass windows. I mean, I noticed that there's so many of them. I mean, can you tell us like which ones are, like, I think those are the oldest ones right here on the entrance.
And the entrance, they are. They're the oldest ones. They were put in. They talk about the history of the church, history of the diocese. This parish church was established before the Diocese of Brooklyn even was created. And that was created in 1853. This goes back and says, according to the window, it says it was 1849. And it goes from 1849, it gives you a history of the church's relation to the diocese to all the way to 1927, the building of this church.
Wow. Now, every church I go to, I always ask the priest, the pastor, the monsignor, which is their favorite stained glass window? Do you have one?
And this is my favorite stained glass window over here. It depicts the gospel according to St. John, who's dedicated to the church dedicated to. It's unique to this church because it's dedicated to St. John the Evangelist. And he's reference to the gospel according to St. John. And it's only in St. John's gospel, chapter 19, that they talk about Jesus looking down from the cross and seeing the Blessed Mother, his mother, and says to her, "Behold your son." And he's pointing to the beloved disciple, who's St. John the Evangelist. And he's saying to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And it says that from that moment on, the beloved disciple took her into his home. And that's the depiction of that one verse that's found in St. John's gospel.
Amazing. I'm telling you, I'm walking with you. It's like I really feel like I'm a kid again. I'm just waiting for Father Scafani or Sister Aunt Stephanie to walk in and say something. Now, on another note, you know, Hurricane Sandy was so devastating to so many people's lives, and a lot of people are still trying to get their lives back together. Did anything happen to the church in light of the storm?
It did, but again, not as devastating as what happened here in the city to other people and to their homes and their families. We had, it used to, you might remember a big tree being right outside the church,
Sure.
a huge tree. And that tree was lifted up in Sandy and thrown into the church area where 2 stained glass windows were broken.
Oh, yeah.
And the roof and the entranceway here was also damaged on the side.
Wow.
And it's being fixed. We could do that. We had to fix the fence that held up the tree that came down. It was
That's
the only
amazing.
thing. So they really made a strong fence at that time.
At that time, not anymore, but that's truly something we were blessed. Let's talk about the sanctuary. Some of my memories are a little, you know, fogged because it was so long since I was a kid.
Right.
But I noticed, you know, just the altar's here now,
Right.
and the altar rail seems to be cut right there and continues. I think that I just don't think this was all here. I remember as a kid because the pews came down a little further.
Right, the pews would have come out here. Yes, it probably was right across about here. And this was in the late 60s that it was changed, that they moved the altar to the front in all the churches because of Vatican Council II. Up until the late 60s, they would have been saying Mass with the altar to the back of the people, and the altar would have been pushed up against that wall, which probably we think that's the original from the 1904 church that was across the street in the school.
What's amazing is I see my mother and father's wedding pictures, and this is exactly how it was.
Right.
You know, Father, it's like ironic to me because the pictures of my mom and dad in front of this altar, it's like I feel like I'm there.
At that time, this altar was up against the wall. The priest would have been saying Mass facing the wall, and the people would have been up over here, and the altar rail would have been out. You would have come out of, if you were serving Mass, come out this way.
I did. I remember because at altar we always would come out this way. I always came out with my friend, may he rest in peace, Billy Adami. He was a great guy. He was like a big brother to me, and he brought me into the church to be an altar boy. My mother was ecstatic because she almost became a nun. And she was so close to the nuns, and like, you know, they were like a tight unit. I couldn't do anything wrong. If I did, I got in so much trouble. But it was so beautiful coming in here, and I'm looking at the mosaic work of St. John.
Right, that is the mosaic. That was done by Monsignor Sala, who went to Italy to actually get the stones for this and invited an Italian artist to come over here and to do this, to do this work. He wanted something dedicated to St. John the Evangelist that would be seen by everybody in the church, and so he had this put up in honor of St. John the Evangelist. as you see the four Gospels in St.
Yes,
John the Evangelist.
Matthew,
right in that.
Luke, John, and Mark. It's unbelievable. This would be the area the nuns would pray in, if I remember right?
Okay, this used to be called the Nuns' Chapel because, again, in the late 1800s, the Sisters of St. Joseph were invited over here to teach in the school for the girls. School for the Girls was actually on this property before it was moved over to the 1904 building. And they used to have a convent right over here. They had a convent that's still there. And they used to come into the chapel through the back door and hear Mass, because Mass was celebrated right over here.
I remember this as a
Remember
kid.
that?
I do remember. My communion, when we had our communions, we had a parade.
We prayed, right?
We used to
yes.
go down the blocks. I have
Right.
pictures of me coming down the block, you know, my little blue suit and all that stuff. It was
Do you remember
unbelievable.
receiving at the altar rail?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
right,
did. We
right.
all lined up because we had to go through so much rehearsal. Because
Right.
we were very strict back then.
Right,
It's not like it
right.
was today, but back then you had to be so strict and you had to everything had to be perfect. And I remember, I don't think I had a hair out of place. It was so perfect.
right.
But it's so beautiful. Now, I know these paintings have always been here, but I don't know about the artwork behind it.
That's a recent artwork by a local artist who did something like that. They wanted to just put in a screen or something back there. And so they put that there. This was done by a local artist within the past 10 years or so.
I knew that was just the
Yeah.
only thing that looked different.
Yeah, everything else is really pretty much the same. As we said, this is the altar from the 1904 church. And then what happened after that time, you probably remember, is that after 65 and 68, that period, they extended the sanctuary out that way,
Yes.
put the altar over here. They had an altar made for that. The original altar that was there is out in the garden in the back.
Oh,
in the
that's
front of
right.
the
Yeah, I've
church.
seen it.
You
Yes.
saw that, right.
It's amazing how many memories I have.
Good memories, hey?
Listen, when we come back, Father Grande is going to tell us about something very special and unique here at St. John the Evangelist. Stay tuned. Well, we're back. And now Father Grande is going to tell us about his special religious artifact here at St. John's the Evangelist.
Well, I think it's right over here. We think it's one of the oldest pieces here in the parish. We think it goes back to the early church of the 1850s. It looks like a German wood. And do you remember where it was?
Well, you know, my mom and dad told me that in the 1940s, it was hanging above the sanctuary, but I believe they moved it in the 1950s.
What's unique about that cross, and I've never really seen it anywhere else before, it is truly expression of St. John's Gospel. And the reason why is that you have Jesus being crucified, and in chapter 19 of St. John's Gospel, it mentions, the only one that mentions, where at the foot of the cross was his mother and the beloved disciple on the other side of the cross. And it's the only one that talks about where Jesus from the cross says to Mary, "Behold your son," and he says to his beloved disciple, John, "Behold your mother." And it's the cross that really expresses what happened at the crucifixion according to the Gospel of John. As I said, John's Gospel is the only one that mentions Mary and the beloved disciple, who is John the Evangelist, at the foot of the cross. The two on the side, chapter 19 of John's Gospel, talks about the two who were crucified with him, one on his right, one on his left. And what's unique about that, they blended in another tradition that goes back to Luke's gospel, where one on the one side of Jesus, who's being crucified with him, looks up at him and really criticizes Jesus. He's saying that if you're the Son of God, you're the Messiah, why can't you get off the cross? And the other one has this face of repentance on that side. That comes from Luke's gospel. But the unique thing about this cross is that it has Mary, the Blessed Mother, on one side, and John on the other side of the crucifixion, which only appears in the Gospel according to John, which is attributed to St. John the Evangelist. The unique thing about that, we think it goes back to one of the early churches of St. John the Evangelist. We think it might go back to the 1850s.
Wow.
And so it's a German wood type thing, so we think it goes back that far.
I have to say, it is breathtaking. Every time I've come in here, it's like I can't believe the amount of detail that went into this.
Yeah.
Because you could see this was hand carved. You can't get that today.
No.
That is a work of craftsmanship, and it's actually breathtaking to see, because you could see Jesus' ribs. I mean, you get the face, everything. It's just, it's truly amazing. And I do agree with you. It is probably my favorite in here as well.
Right. In
all my years that I've been in this church. Well, I'd like to thank you, Father Grande, for being such a gracious host to me and the viewers, for showing
my pleasure.
My church. I hate to say it like that, but this is my church, St. John the Evangelist. It means so much to me that you took the time out to show us and the viewers, and I hope that you all enjoyed this, because to me it was like going home again. I just feel like a little kid in here again. I'm ready to go serve Mass. Well, that's it for this episode of City of Churches. Remember, if you'd like any information about this church or any other church that we've done, or you'd like to recommend a church, please log on to our website at www.netnewyork.net, or you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Otherwise, I'm Anthony Mangano. Thanks for watching, and God bless you. So anyway, that truly is my favorite piece here since I was a multiplier. It's amazing.
Thanks a lot.
Once again, here is Europe's #1 choral group, the Ulmer Spatzen Choir from Germany, singing here at St. John's.
Gloria Hi, I'm Robert Davi, and you're watching City of Churches with Anthony Mangano.
Hi, I'm Anthony Mangano, your new host of City of Churches, and today I have a very special friend here today. I talk about how life is funny, life is ironic, and here I am with actor, singer, my friend for many years, Robert Davi. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Davi.
Hey, Anthony.
This is amazing.
Yeah, what a small world again.
This is
Everything
amazing.
comes full circle.
It absolutely
So you're
does.
the new host of City of...
Yes, I'm the new host of City of Churches, and
How long?
we shot about 6 or 7 episodes, about to air December 18th.
First time?
First time it's coming on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually really great. My first episode is actually where I grew up here in Park Slope and where my mom and dad got married in this church,
Oh,
St.
nice.
John the Evangelist. But the irony of this is my childhood friend, Nick Vallelonga. Nick and I have been friends. His dad was a maitre d' at the Copacabana.
Right.
And my dad was a nightclub singer like you, and he sang and he performed. And Nick and I became friends when we were kids. And all these years later, Nick writes this song, A New York City Christmas, and Robert recorded it. I want you to explain about it.
And as you know, there are two big figures in an Italian family, the Pope and Sinatra.
Very true.
Not necessarily in that order, right?
Oh, not sure. Very true.
But anyway, to me, the great American songbook is the Shakespeare of America. It's the golden age of American music. It's what made the world fall in love with our country and got us through very difficult times. And so Nick Vallelonga, your old-time friend, came to one of my shows and wrote a tremendous review of it. Of course, he'd been to the Copa, so we heard great acts and gave a great review of that. And then a couple of weeks later, it came to me and said, I've got something I want to talk to you about. And being the gentle guy he is, he kind of underplayed this song that he had done. I liked the lyrics of the song, and I thought there was potential in this. And also, because as you know as I do, Anthony, that there's been an attack on Christmas.
Yeah, very much so.
Right? You know, so I grew up, Christmas, Merry Christmas, there was no political incorrectness. The Christmas trees, all the streets were lights. People were, you know, Merry Christmas, and it wasn't. Now, it's become a politically correct thing not to say, you can't say Merry Christmas. They don't want kids to sing hymns in school. The secular society has been pounded by a handful of people, and that silent majority that are listening to this, you know, seem to just let things get overtaken. Well, that's dangerous. Last year, in Santa Monica, California, they took the nativity scene out after 60 years because a couple of atheists wanted to have it removed. So I held a vigil that brought some attention to it and then got that put back up. So when I saw this song, it's not only a great tribute to the city I grew up in, New York.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? The New York City Christmas. And it has all those, starts off with St. Patrick's Cathedral, of course, and then hits on all those great points of the city. It also comes to the essence of what our holiday is about, the birth of Christ, a historical figure 2,000 years ago that you know, brought salvation to man. And so it unashamedly was able to have that in the lyric, and I wanted to sing this song, so I do need as you can imagine, the secular world twitches when a new song comes out. They'll play the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and they'll play other songs, and they'll even say, hey, can you take the reference point out, the bridge to the birth of Christ, and you know, you'll get more airplay perhaps, you know?
That's really sad.
And to now have kids be frightened or having to think twice about learning a Silent Night, Holy Night, or Come All Ye Faithful, or New York City Christmas, and having a lyric that references the birth of Christ, something that just brings joy to the world and positive energy to the world. I mean, so that is a battle that you have to fight. That's why it's so important that the church or faith-based organizations, and the show like yours, the cultural, we have to take culture and have people support the culture. So anyone that's listening today out there, I do indulge you to get this as a Christmas gift, and you can help me help fight that for you, because I'm on the front lines of culture in film and television. You've known me from Goonies and Bond and Die Hard and a lot of other films, Profiler, Criminal Minds. And by supporting that endeavor of wanting to bring a song that isn't afraid to say Merry Christmas.
It's a great song. I tell the viewers out there, it's a really happy, peppy, Sinatra-style pack of, you know, when I was a kid, we had the Dean Martin Christmas special, the Perry Como, the
Andy Williams.
Those were great specials, and they sang everything, and that's the way it should be now. You're 100% right. And this song, because I've heard it, I promise you, if you listen to this, you don't want to just buy it for yourself. You're going to wind up buying it for your family because it's that good. It'll stick around. It's a really great song, Robert. I have to tell you. You did a great job on it. Nick writing it and stuff. It's a great, great song.
And it's a fun tune. And Merry Christmas and God bless everyone.
New York City Christmas. I want to thank Robert for coming on.
Thank you, Anthony.
God bless you.
God
and
bless
for
you.
sticking for your beliefs. And I'm very proud of that about you. I take my hat off to you, Rob.
Well, and to you too.
There you go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Have a happy and healthy New Year.
St. Patrick's Cathedral, horse and buggies too. Central Park, there's so much to do. Rockefeller Center, an ice skater's delight. That big Christmas tree brightens up the night. Holiday shoppers buying presents for you. The hustle and the bustle down Fifth Avenue. New York City Christmas. New York City Christmas. Radio City, that great music hall. Frank, Dean, and Sammy all having a ball. Hot chestnuts and pretzels, their scent fills the air. Carol is singing songs of love everywhere. New York City Christmas, that New York City Christmas. Lift up your hearts and rejoice, the time has come. God's Christmas gift, peace on earth for everyone. Child is born, stars so bright. Angels choir sings a holy night. Please spread the word for all to hear. Let's celebrate throughout the year. The Salvation Army are ringing its bell. Cops and firemen make sure all is well. Best night of the city, I think you'll agree. Monsignor Casada Santa on that little starry-eyed child's knee. New York City Christmas, come on everybody. That New York City Christmas. New York City Christmas. It's Bensonhurst, baby, the Big Apple. New York City Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless all of you.
Come on, guys, give it up for Robert Davi again.